Thoughtonomics here. Started up the podcast last week and want to keep it going. And last week talked some wrestling, and this week want to do that again, but in a little bit of a different way. I want to talk about the Hulk Hogan documentary that got released on Netflix last week. And I guess just for me in general, like, I feel like with a lot of documentaries, stuff that's been made the past like 10, 15 years, I just think a lot of it is just like unnecessary. I just think a lot of shit in documentaries gets embellished and exaggerated. And yeah, it's just a lot of stuff that's already known. Like, you talk about Hulk Hogan, he was one of the most famous people on the planet, and his story has just, I don't know, for me, has been regaled 1,000 times already. Like, how many more ways can you analyze it and dissect it? And I feel like I didn't learn that much, nothing groundbreaking at all. And I'm more just going to talk about the first 3 episodes. The fourth one, it was more just on his divorce and controversy he got in, and his death last year. And it was more sad, and I just want to more focus on the first 3 episodes because I feel like that more dealt with his career. And yeah, I mean, just with documentaries, I just feel like a lot of stuff is just common sense, and it's just stuff that, you know, like we already know. Like Linda was featured a lot, and they talked a lot about her and Hulk and dating and getting married and having kids and just stuff that's, you know, like part of the human experience. Like I get it. Like, I just felt like very unnecessary. Like, this is just stuff that could be like found out about and just have like an interview or like read his Wikipedia page. Like, I just feel like with documentaries, a lot of it is just like a money grab. I guess people are getting paid on this, and I don't know. I just really wasn't into that stuff with Linda and Hulk, and they touch on the narrative, and I see this all the time in wrestling documentaries. Like, it just gets played out, and they talk about how Hulk was on the road and he wasn't home, and you know, you just hear that in every like wrestling documentary. Oh, it's hard being a wrestler in the 90s and 2000s and on the road, and you're not a good dad, and blah blah blah. Like, it's just, I've heard that story like a million times already, and it just gets played out. And so I didn't like that. And I guess I'm just thinking about other stuff that gets played out, like WrestleMania I. I've heard that story 1,000 times already, 1,000, 100,000 times. It's just, Vince bet his life savings on it, bet his mortgage on it. I get it. I understand it. Like, if WrestleMania doesn't work out, there's no WWE and there's no Hulk Hogan. Like, I've heard that story 100,000 times already. And I'm just thinking about some of the personalities on there too. Bruce Pritchard, like, on another wrestling documentary, like, doesn't he get tired of saying the same stuff over and over? Just seeing Bruce Pritchard, Eric Bischoff, the NWO. Like, how many times do I have to hear about the NWO? I get it. You know, society was becoming more edgy and evolving. I get it. 83 weeks, WCW, WWE. Like, I've heard that story a million times already. Like, I just felt like, even before I watched it, like, in my head, I'm just anticipating this is what I'm going to hear. And it was what I ended up hearing. So I don't know. It just stuff I already knew. And there were a couple of things I did want to kind of more dissect and deep dive and analyze. And I'm curious if anyone else kind of picked up on this. But one of those things was that they were talking about Hulk in 1990 and how, he was getting tired and was thinking about retiring or cutting back and coming up with a new star. And they went into the Ultimate Warrior. And we obviously know how that transpired. But they more dissected WrestleMania VI, like the actual match itself. And I've seen this match plenty of times. And one thing that struck a chord with me was like, and sometimes I don't know, I feel like they were just bashing Ultimate Warrior here, but Hulk was talking about the match itself and was saying how he had to carry the Ultimate Warrior throughout that match. And Hulk, I guess he was getting more into like the weeds with an actual match, which I never really heard Hulk commentate in that fashion before, but getting into the weeds of it and talking about how he had to carry Warrior and he wasn't in good conditioning. And it sounded like he was even more getting into like the artistic element of it, which I thought is like, I think I'm using this phrase correctly, like the pot calling the kettle black, like really, like, who is Hulk to, comment on the artistic and the technical part of the job. I mean, I've always gone on record saying he's had great matches, like his matches have had great theater and great drama, but like, dude, you're not Shawn Michaels, like you were never Bret Hart, and I just didn't like that, the way they were dissecting that actual match of WrestleMania VI, and they made it sound like it was such a terrible match. And if you go back and watch it, like the crowd was enthralled with that match. They were hanging on every move. The crowd was like so into it. They were going berserk. It was electric at the Sky Dome. And Warrior ends up winning, and we know how that transpires. And yeah, I mean, he's not the guy, as I think. I mean, I'm not trying to go into Warrior's career, but he did have some like relevant moments after that. But I get it. Yeah, they took the title off him. He wasn't the main guy, but I just didn't like how they dissected that WrestleMania VI match like that. And another thing I'm thinking about is they kind of deep dive WrestleMania IX and going back to this. And this was something that really like struck a chord with me too. And they had Bret Hart on the documentary doing commentary, and this is where I feel like shit gets embellished and exaggerated. But Bret was saying how, I guess they have footage from WrestleMania IX, but Bret, and I think he was just kind of like setting things up, but was saying how the day of WrestleMania IX, Hulk didn't, I mean, I think he went up to greet Hulk and Hulk totally dismissed him. And I think he was setting something up, but they were talking about WrestleMania IX and the ending, and Yokozuna beats Bret. Bret gets the salt thrown in his eyes, and Hulk comes out trying to be like Bret's friend. And we know how it ends. Mr. Fuji challenges Hulk. Hulk wins the title in like a little 20-second match. I mean, I get it. It was kind of weird, just that whole ending, but just the way it was commentated on, like they made it sound like it was like the worst moment in wrestling history. And again, if you go back, look at the tape, go look at that crowd in Caesar's Palace. Like, I get this was the end of Hulkamania, kind of, and they were talking about how Hulkamania was getting played out and everything, but at the same time, maybe it was just this specific event, but the crowd went berserk. They were insane when Hulk won the title. So I don't know. They say like this narrative, like Hulkamania was dying and all this, but go back, look at the tape. The crowd is electric, going insane when Hulk wins it. Now maybe it was time for Hulk to hang it up anyway. It had been, 8-9 years at that point, but that was just something that threw me off. And then Bret, I don't know. I get the sense like Bret is just trying to, I don't know if the director was trying to like make him sound hostile and still have animosity to this day, I guess 33 years later. But Bret, I forget exactly what he was saying, but he just made it sound like he was so hostile and so, thought it was just like a terrible situation. And Bret, I don't know, he was just embellishing it, like making it way worse than it sounded, and or making it like way worse than it was. And Bret went on to be the guy after Hulk. Like Bret made it sound like it was just such this down moment in his career. And, 6 months later, I don't know, yeah, whenever he won the title again, he was like the face of the company for four years after that. So like, I just didn't like the way Bret painted it. I just such this negative moment, and I just think that was the way the director wanted it painted. And I forget exactly what Hulk said about it, and I think other people commented on it too, and they were making it sound like WrestleMania IX, that just this terrible moment, just didn't make any sense. And I just didn't see it that way. And those were just some of the things that really stood out on my mind from this documentary. Yeah, but that's it. Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking documentary. Yeah, just stuff I already knew. A lot of stuff getting embellished and exaggerated, and I just really wasn't into it. I think the last episode, though, they did have some touching stuff at the end, which I liked. And obviously, we don't see Vince McMahon much anymore, hear about him, but they did have footage of him speaking at Hulk's funeral and really just like paying homage to him. And, I know what's happened with Vince, all the negative stuff, and I don't want to commentate on that. I don't want to get into that. That's just a different story. But I thought it was very touching how he paid tribute to Hulk, and that was nice. But those were just some of my observations from watching it, and if anyone else watched it or if you listen, would love to hear feedback on this. And that's another episode in the books, and not sure what I'm going to do for my next one. I think I said that at the end of my last podcast, but at the end of my last episode, but we'll see. And yeah, so another one in the books, and love to hear feedback. So yeah, if you listened, love to hear back from you, and take care.